Is it working yet? Hello? Why is it offline? It seems to think it's going, but there's no viewers. Hello? Ah.
You need a website. Why not do it yourself? With Wix.
Hey guys, there have been some technical difficulties, which is why I'm starting a bit late, so I apologize for that. And I screwed something up, and hopefully we're going to see some stuff soon. I believe it is turned on. It says that there are 32 people watching currently, which I appreciate, and as soon as I get this figured out... yes, there we go. Alrighty. Alright. Well, the coffee's done, if you can hear that noise in the background. And I seem to have everything pretty much figured out. It's a dark day here in the upper nerd bunker. And by dark, I don't mean by tone. I mean, it's not very bright outside. It's kind of rainy and crappy. So, yeah, it is... that's probably why it looks a little dingy in here. There's not a great lighting setup in here in the upper nerd bunker. The nerd bunker is my basement. The rest of the house is known as the upper nerd bunker, and so this is the dining room. So yeah. So there we go. I'm glad that we got this working, and a little late, but it mostly got working again. Eventually, when I get this all completely figured out. But I'm glad to see you people, and I'm going to show you some things today. I'm getting a hello from Turkey and from Spain, South Korea again, England, awesome, Italy. So nice to see someone from back home in Wisconsin. Yep, I'm in Wisconsin. Let's see here. What else have we got? Trying to set up. That should be all good. All right, cool. Rain is the perfect painting weather. Nothing else to do. Well, it's good painting weather. That's true. If you're just hanging out, in your paint room and doing that stuff. It's bad priming weather. But luckily, I got a bunch of my priming done on the skeletons that I've been working on for my Death Army for Age of Sigmar. I got a lot of that done because I knew rain was coming. We're going to have rain, starting like today / last night. We're going to have rain going on for probably the next 3 or 4 days. So, yeah. Sweden, Australia, Germany, Belgium, sweet, cool. Scotland, Ohio. Yeah, I'm always glad to see that people are checking it out, and I hope you guys are enjoying these live chats. I know I've had people tell me that they like to turn them on and then just like listen to them while they paint. They're kind of like a podcast to some degree, which is fine by me. I like to do things generally kind of video. I've thought about doing a podcast in the past, but this is almost kind of like a podcast every 2 weeks, me answering questions and yammering on. But it does give me the ability to do some video stuff from time to time and maybe show off some visual things. Like I can click on, let's see this thing here. You can see the thumbnail. That's a lot of fun. And, obviously the other standard kind of picture-in-picture kind of jazz that I like to do. Let's see what else. What do we got here? New Zealand. All right, that's cool. Singapore, Poland, Seattle. I've got a friend who lives in Seattle, or a couple of friends actually. Let's see here. Gary West says that this is the first one that I've actually gotten to listen to while I paint, so that's cool. Yeah, I like the fact that people can interact live, which is a little bit harder to do sometimes with a podcast, I think. Or at least I haven't ever done it with a podcast. I've never, live chatted with somebody in a podcast. But I like being able to do that and have people be able to live chat and have me be able to do that kind of stuff. And then I like being able to people can then watch these later on if they couldn't make it, or if they want to listen to it again when they're painting or something like that. It's kind of cool, I think. So it's midnight in Australia. That is so crazy to me. Think of the way that the time zones work. It's evidently rainy in Canada as well. Well, Wisconsin's pretty close to Canada, frankly. We're right in the top part of America, and we're right underneath Canada. So yeah, I suppose it makes sense. Got a couple of Germanys, Missouri. All right, I'm going to try to pop out this chat window here. All right, swell, so I can make it longer. And that will help me out a bit. All right. Estonia, cool. Denmark, neat. Poland, awesome. All right, let's see here. So, what's gone on since the last show 2 weeks ago? Well, I went to an event in Madison, Wisconsin. That was, in Madison, Wisconsin, I received this guy. He is a stuffed bugbear, or no, sorry, owlbear. Excuse me. He's an owlbear. I have decided that his name is Owly J. Owlbearington, and I went to something called the ACD Game Day, and ACD Game Day. ACD is a distributor, so they're the guys who get stuff from the manufacturers, the gaming manufacturers, and then sell it to the local stores. That's kind of how it works. So they're based out of the Wisconsin area. I've got a friend that owns a store, and so he and I go to this thing every year in the spring, and it's always kind of it's a neat thing. It's like a trade show. There's some seminars and stuff like that. I got to talk to some people from the U.S. version of Games Workshop. I talked to some people from Steamforged Games, the guys who do Guild Ball. I actually got to finally play a game of Guild Ball. I got to play a demo. That's the other thing that's kind of cool too, is that on Thursday night, we get there like Wednesday night, and then there's seminars all day Thursday, and then on Thursday evening there's a big demo thing where you do a bunch of different manufacturers that are showing off games, and then you play different games just to learn about more stuff and everything like that. So I got to play a bunch of kind of stuff, different demos, one of them being Guild Ball, which I really liked. It was kind of really cool. Yeah, the owlbear is pretty cool. The owlbear is there's an artist named John Kovalik. He's based out of Wisconsin. He does the majority of all the artwork for the Munchkin card games from Steve Jackson games. If you're familiar with any of those Munchkin games, he does most of the artwork in those. And he also does a webcomic called Dork Tower. And I think that this owlbear, I don't know if it's a character from that or not, but yeah, he's supposed to look sort of, a little baked, as someone said in the chat. But yeah, so it's cool. You might be able to find him on their website if you go to the Dork Tower website. But yeah, everybody who showed up got like a little bag and a T-shirt, and in years past we've gotten a mug or something when we go, and this year we all got an owlbear, which was pretty awesome. So anyway, yeah, so it was a cool conference, and I liked talking to the people I got to talk to a couple different fans that I bumped into, people who owned shops and who watched the videos, and so that was really cool. I like that too. Let's see here. He is a little derpy, I'll give you that, the owlbear here, but he's going to end up eventually either in the background in my videos, or maybe, I don't know, maybe he'll just stay here at the house. We'll see how it goes. Let's see here. Bram Shot asks, what do you do when you batch paint? Do you do one color shade and highlight, or do you do all of your base coats first and then your shades? When I batch paint, which I'm going to be doing very soon because I've got 35 skeletons all at this point now built, based, textured, and primed in a bone color, which if you watch my it is Kovalik's, by the way, Paul Sembrowski. It's Kovalik's artwork. But so getting back to the batch painting, if you do all that stuff and get ready, and if you watch the video that I did about how to paint skeletons, you'll kind of see the process that I took. But it depends on whatever you're batch painting. When you batch paint these guys, for me, I like to go through and do the color, like, if some of the guys have wooden shields and some of the guys have metal shields, well, I'll paint all the metal shield guys first, and then I'll get done, clean out the brush in my water, and then I'll go back and I'll do all the wooden shields next. Or, if they all have metal swords, well, you paint the metals. So I do it kind of like that, so that I'm not having to constantly change colors in between guys. I just go through, and maybe I have to skip 3 guys because these 3 guys don't have wooden shields, let's say. So I'm gonna go to the next guy. Sometimes I'll take a look and be like, okay, well, this guy doesn't have a wooden shield, but he does have like leather straps on his thing, so I can do that kind of color. But yeah, and when I go back then to do highlights and shades and things like that, I do it. I don't work on a piece per piece. I really go quickly, because the thing is as you keep going back and forth across these models, if you spend a lot of time on this model, you get to a point where you're stopping because you have to wait for something to dry. Whereas if you go batch like that, you just do this thing, go to the next thing, do this thing, go to this thing, do the next thing, and just keep working until you run out of guys, and then that first one's already dry. So now you can go back and highlight or whatever. So, everybody's got a different technique for how that stuff's going to work, but I find batch painting, especially for larger groups of models, is really the way to go. So yeah, let's see here. I'll say the events I've been to are very different from the ones in the Midwest, says Jeremy Draxler. Yeah, the Midwest ones, this wasn't a gaming convention. This was really more of a business thing. It was basically just all retailers at this thing, because it was the distributor. The retailers come in, sit and watch seminars and do stuff like that, and then do some demos in the evening. This is not a normal game convention. Normal game conventions is just a bunch of nerds like us basically showing up and playing things that are either scheduled or non-scheduled, pickup games, whatever, that kind of stuff. But this was more of a business thing. I went with my friend who's the store owner and did that. So let's see here. What is the best MDF terrain? I have no idea what the best is. Best is kind of a it's a subjective term, or, yeah, I would say it's a subjective term. For me, the best MDF terrain is MDF terrain that doesn't look like MDF terrain once it's built. For me, if it doesn't look like it was made out of MDF, if all the joins and all the parts where it goes together kind of become seamless because the way the person designed it looked right, then yeah, then for me, then that's usually, and if it fits, I like the design, the shanties that I did a while back for post-apocalyptic games, those are great because when you put them together, they barely look like MDF, like tab and slot. You know what I mean? That's kind of a big deal. What else? Just whatever fits your kind of look and whatever you like doing. But for me, the big thing is if it doesn't look like it's been slotted together, it looks then I prefer that myself. Let's see here. Bram says, haha, I'm just struggling to keep motivated because I have a lot of models. Yeah, motivation's a tough one, I will admit. And especially when you're staring down the barrel of really a lot of models. I've got, like I said, 35 skeletons right now to paint. And I need to stick them all to those paint sticks, the stirrers that you use for painting, stirring house paint that you get from the hardware store. I'm going to stick them on there, and then I'm going to just start going through. I'm not going to be able to do anything today because all the rest of the afternoon and the evening I've got a whole bunch of other stuff I got to take care of, like normal dumb work stuff. So that's going to be a bummer, but hopefully this week I'll be able to get started painting on those and cracking on them. I've got other stuff to do too, other stuff to build. So for me, it's also sometimes there's I could just keep building, and then once I get a bunch of stuff built, then stop building and then just start painting a lot of stuff. For me, it's difficult to kind of go back and forth between build mode and paint mode. So you may be different. Sometimes people like to break things up by building a little bit, painting a little bit. I do that, but I usually try to do it in wider, time lengths, where I'm building for maybe 2 weeks and then I'm painting for 3 weeks or something like that. Let's see here. Boom, boom, ba-doom. Sneaking through the back after being up till 6 a.m. sculpting the wire crusher all night. I saw the weird Wiv crusher. I can't pronounce that properly, but I did see that on the Paint Showcase Club. That looked cool. I liked the Ninja Gizmo. I liked seeing that. That if you guys haven't looked at the Paint Showcase Club, I need to make a graphic for that so people can check it out. But yeah, there's been a lot of cool stuff on there. Most of it's painted, but Ninja Gizmo did some work on some sculpting, which was for the orcs, it looks like, and it was really cool. Let's see here. Hey Adam, have you seen the new containers from Games Workshop? I swear I heard of something, but I haven't seen them, I don't think. Let's see here. Should I switch square bases for round bases to play Age of Sigmar? You don't have to. Not at all. I did. Like, all these skeletons I'm talking about, I bought used from a guy, and they were all old fantasy skeletons, so they're all on square bases. Most of them were not even ever primed. They were just put together. But I knocked off all the bases, and I put them on rounds, because I just prefer rounds. I always have. One of the reasons I never got into fantasy, because I didn't like square bases, which sounds stupid, but there it is. So yeah, it's up to you, but there's no requirement certainly to do that at all. Mr. Lane says, I find small groups of minis is the best choice for batch painting. You avoid getting burned out from painting 20 leather coats one at a time. Yeah, and everybody's got a different limit to that. Some people are like, I can't batch paint more than 5 things at once. Some people can't do more than 10 or whatever, and some people can just crank out as many as they can. With these skeletons, because there's so many of them and they're relatively simple, because they're skeletons, I'm going to try to maybe do 10 at a time and see what I can do, but we'll see. I could just try cranking through the whole 30 plus of them or whatever, but that might kill me, so I don't necessarily want to go that direction, so we'll see how it goes. Let's see here. Jeremy Drexler says, well, the question I've been wanting to ask is, we are both talking about getting into Age of Sigmar. What will we need to get playing, minimum? You will need some figures, and you will need some dice, and probably a tape measure or something. Maybe a little bit of stuff that you could use as terrain. You could use coffee mugs and pop cans and books and things like that. You need a flat space to play on. But that's about all you need to do. I mean, really, if you want to, you could go and buy a bunch of, go on eBay and buy a bunch of used, HeroClix guys or Mage Knight or pre-painted whatever. You can use whatever the heck you want, frankly, to play. And the rules are free on the Games Workshop website. Plus, you can also use the app. If you've got a smartphone or a tablet or whatever, you can download the app for free. It's got the rules in there, and it's got all the war scrolls available too. So there's really not a lot you need. Now, if you want to get into painting and things like that, well, then you need paints and brushes and all that jazz. And I can't tell you about all that stuff necessarily in this particular, format. But really, you don't need it. It used to be, well, you needed the main book, and you needed the army book, and you need that. But now that stuff's all free, which, like I've said in the past, I think is a really smart idea on Games Workshop's part. So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. So let's see here. Hey dude, I'm wanting to paint the Star Drake just like the artwork, but there's no color guide. What advice would you give me to get as close as possible? Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I haven't seen anything about what the colors would be, so I don't usually ever try to paint things exactly like the stuff that I see in the boxes. I always paint things a little different, so I wouldn't be super good at that. I have the Silver Tower in 2 Let's Collect boxes and 5 units. I never learned overbuying. Yeah, no, I've still stayed away from Silver Tower, so I'm feeling pretty good about that, yeah. Let's see here. Definitely a batch painter. Just finished a bolt action Soviet Forces 70, and the batch was the only way I made it through it. Yeah, well, especially with army guys, because they're basically, they should be all dressed the same. I mean, that kind of is what's the point of being in the army. Let's see here. It's sad that most players only get as far as putting minis together. They never really care about painting them. Yeah, I mean, I like to paint them because I'm a hobby dork, but, it's, some people have different, things that they want to do, I guess. Hey, Adam, one question. I'm a beginner, and I really like Age of Sigmar, but all the negativity I see online about the whole system is very off-putting. I don't know if it's worth a try. I think it's worth a try. If you can find people in your local area to play with, then it's definitely worth a try. Yeah, I think and I think you're starting to see some of that negativity turn around to some degree because they're obviously sticking with it. And so that's, I think, cool. Deck and Dice Gaming says, I have over 100 clan rats to paint. Yeah, clan rats, they do multiply, kind of like clan rats. So yeah, that's difficult. Let's see here. And I've got a bunch of Skaven myself, actually. Well, yeah, I've got 20 Plague Monks. that are mostly all built, and so those would be eventually painted as well. Cliff Spears says he's loving the group Facebook page, the Tabletop Minions Paint Showcase Club. We just recently, as of a couple days ago, hit 1,000 members, and it's not even been up necessarily a month, I don't think. So that was really cool. There's been a lot of amazing stuff in there. I've been trying to go through and find certain pictures that I think are really, really good of people's artwork or people's paintings and things like that, people's miniatures, and I've been trying to put them in a folder because I'm trying to figure out, well, maybe I'll make a video about it, or maybe I'll talk about them up here, but I'll probably end up making a video about it because I don't know how easy it would be to put them here, but yeah, that's the plan. Let's see here. I counted my Skaven last week, 183 models to paint. Yeah. Definitely try to figure out a way to do it fast. Figure out a way like if it was me, excuse me, I would probably start with using Krylon, at least in America. Krylon makes a line of camouflage paints. One of the camouflage colors is a dark brown. So you could prime and base coat all of your Skaven with that dark brown, and then go through and just start painting on top of it, like painting their cloaks, painting their armor, all that kind of stuff. But the dark brown could be their fur, and that would at least save you a step and speed things up. Stuff like that. Like painting skeletons is not so bad because you can use one of those Krylon colors. It's kind of a very sandy, kind of lighter, it's almost a bone color. There's 2 tans, there's 2 greens, there's the dark brown and the black. I'm always trying to figure out how to use those because they work great as a primer and base. So Daniel Antle says, Age of Sigmar, can I mix undead with miniature or undead with Empire models? Love the idea of Necromancer and Undead Rifleman. Yeah, you totally can if you want. It depends on a little bit sometimes on what your opponent is comfortable with. Like around the group of guys that I play with, we generally all stick to the same Grand Alliance. So my guys are Death, let's say, or my guys are Chaos, and this guy's going to play Order. And we don't usually mix between the 4 Grand Alliances, which is Order, Death, Destruction, and Chaos. I remembered all 4 of those. But there's no reason you can't. I mean, it doesn't say in the rules don't do it. So if you want to and your friends are cool with it, yeah, you can totally do it. Let's see here. Bog989 says, I'm getting burnt out on painting my dwarf army. What can I paint in Age of Sigmar that is as far from dwarves as possible? Elves? They're tall and skinny as opposed to short and stout. And technically, elves and dwarves in the new rules are both under order, so you could, field them together if you really wanted to. That's what I would say. Stacking buffs in Age of Sigmar. Opinions. I forget what the official fact says at this point now. I know there was talk about it, but I believe that the official fact said if you wanted to put multiple, let's say, Mystic Shields on one unit, you could do it. But I forget exactly what because I looked at that, when they put the fact out there on Facebook and they're like, it's not finalized yet, but we want to hear your feedback, which is crazy for Games Workshop to say. Yeah, when they did that a while back, I was kind of surprised by that, and I forget which way they were going on that. I mean, it makes sense to some degree if you decide to put, I don't want to say waste, but if you decide that 3 different wizards are going to each put Mystic Shield on this unit so they can go from a 5-up save to, say, a 2-up save or whatever, well, now all those wizards can't do anything else this turn, magic-wise. So there's a definite trade-off in doing that. That being said, you've now made this 5-up unit now a really powerful 2-up, save unit or whatever. So, yeah, I don't know. I know that they're going to rule on it, from what I understand, and they may have already ruled on it, and I just missed the FAQ. I haven't looked at to see if the new FAQ is out yet, strangely. But, yeah, I'm not against it. If they say, yep, that's cool to do it, then I may yep, okay, cool. Let's see here. Patrick Peters says, I'm currently batch painting my Waffen SS for Bolt Actionum. I'm actually enjoying the camouflage. It offers a chance for uniformity, but also variation on each figure. Yeah, I've never really painted camouflage before, but it seems like it would be, I don't know, you could listen to a lot of audiobooks and podcasts while you're just sort of focusing on doing that and just kind of yep, and putting in like the P, I think they call it P dot camouflage, kind of the Germany sort of stuff where it's just little dots of different colors and things like that. That would be the easiest, I would think, for painting. Painting normal camouflage, I would think, would be hard too, especially on guys. Granted, they're 28 millimeter, but still. Oh, let's see here. Me and my friend just started Age of Sigmar, and we are a bit puzzled as to how precisely we need to measure distances. In a friendly game, it's not that important, but in tournaments, in a friendly game, it's not that important. In tournaments, it's probably a bit more important, but I've never played in an Age of Sigmar tournament, so I don't know. Every tournament organizer is going to kind of have their own rules. There's always a discussion about, well, should we go measure between bases, or should we actually do like the instructions say, the rules, and measure between models? That's totally up to the tournament organizer, and if you're playing just amongst your friends, then it's totally up to you guys. Let's see here. Beginner question incoming. When to use black or white primer? I hear so many different answers. Thanks. If you're going to be painting very light things, elfin princesses and things like that, or whatever, that have to have very pale light skin and all that kind of stuff, I would definitely go with white. I almost always prime in black. But lately what I've been doing a lot of is priming everything in black and then dust everything from above with white to give it that variation. I've got a video that you might want to check out called Understanding Underpainting. Understanding Underpainting. I talk a lot about it in there, about the different type of priming, and even just like if I'm going to be painting something gold, I paint brown underneath it first, because it just the colors are always at least slightly transparent. So yeah, it takes a little bit of practice, but yeah, it depends on kind of what you're doing. Like with my skeletons, I didn't prime them at all technically. I just painted the Krylon tan color on them because it sticks super well to plastic. It's a very matte finish, so it takes paint really well, and then I basically saved myself a step. Instead of having to prime them and then paint them bone color, I've done it all in one step, which helps. So if you can find a paint that does that, and Army Painter is a company that makes a lot of primers that are in specific colors, and I think even Games Workshop is doing some of that now because it just helps you save a step. It's really kind of nice. Adam, have you heard that Age of Sigmar is getting points in the summer? The Age of Easy Play is dead. They are getting points in the summer. It is not that the Age of Easy Play is dead. It's optional. There's going to be a book coming out, and I forget what it's called, the General's Handbook or something like that, and it's going to have new stuff for complete free play, it's going to have new stuff for narrative/campaign play, and it's going to have a point system that you can also use if you want to. So you'll be able to use, whichever, if your group still wants to stick with non-points play, it totally can. If you want to stick with, we're going to work with these campaigns, which I think are going to be a lot more structured, you can do it that way. You want to play tournaments and use points and things like that? Totally cool. So yeah, they're not making it so that you're like, okay, well now you have to use points. They're just saying, hey, we're giving you a point system if you want to use it. And then everybody can be kind of on the same page who wants to use points, because there's a bunch of different point systems out there made by other people. And I think they worked with several different groups. They worked with the South Coast GT guys. They worked with the Bad Diced podcast. They worked with, there was another third group that they worked with, of basically people on the internet, and sat down and said, how do you think we should do it? And it's very interesting. Did you try Batman the miniature game? No, there was nobody at that ACD game day that I went to that was running it. And I've talked to some friends. I've got a bunch of friends down in the Milwaukee area that play it, but nobody up here plays it, so I haven't really looked into it. Some of the models look amazing, but yeah, I haven't really looked into it. Let's see here. Currently painting some Tau Fire Warriors. Should really be studying for exams right now, but no thanks. I'm going for a blue-gray mostly. Well, that's interesting, because a lot of times, it used to be that they were always that tan color. In the studio ones that they would paint and put on the boxes were always the tan, and now with the new release, they've moved always to that sort of whitish color, which I think is interesting. The ones that I did, you can see an image of them in the last video I did, the one about, the Friday video. I can't think of the title off the top of my head. But in that one, I did more of an orangey red kind of color. So, yeah, let's see here. What else have we got? Rhino of Pleasure. Are those bases resin? I think you guys are talking about something else, which is fine. Let's see here. What really gets on my nerves is that where I live, it's really hard to find places where to play due to costs, etc. And when you find one, everyone's all about competitive play, whatever the game. Yeah, I think that's probably part of the issue sometimes. Like in America, we don't have nearly as many wargaming clubs, from what I understand, over in the UK, there's a lot more wargaming clubs where you get together at a place. In America, it's a lot of times you either get together at a store where there can be a lot of competition, or you maybe go to events or things like that. When you play with people in your local, like people who come over to your house or you go over to their house or whatever, then it's usually not that competitive. They're usually friends of yours, or they're soon to be friends of yours, things like that. But yeah, going to stores, I've had some bad experiences going to stores and playing with people that you see there quite frequently, and they can be super competitive. But I've also had there's a guy I've been playing lately at my local store. We've played probably 2-3 games together now, and we're not really competitive at all, and we're having a good time, and it's a lot of fun. Some of the pictures you've seen recently, if you follow me on social media and stuff like that, where you've seen some of my games, have been that, basically. So yeah. Let's see here. I used to prime in Krylon all the time, but when I tried P3 primers, they seem to go on much thinner. Well, yeah. I mean, P3 primers are good from what I understand, too. The Krylons that I'm talking about are not like the standard Krylon, just like regular Krylon spray paint. The Krylons that I love to use, and you can only use them in certain situations, are the Krylon camouflage line. So they only come in black, dark brown, 2 shades of tan, and 2 shades of green. So like if you were going to be painting like skeletons, use one of the tans. It works great. If you're going to be painting, I'm going to be doing a video soon about how to paint Imperial Guard using one of the Krylon tans. If you were going to be painting Imperial Guard vehicles like Chimeras or Leman Russ tanks or whatever, one of the greens is great. The brown is really great for a lot of things too. So yeah, but the standard Krylons I don't generally use. If I'm not doing something that fits that color scheme, or if it's winter and I can't go outside and prime, then I usually use my airbrush, and then I use Vallejo Surface Airbrush Primer. So let's see here. I really want to get a corn army going, but all that flesh gets me. Yeah, flesh is a little difficult. You can build up a process and kind of learn how to do it. Sam did a video on my channel a month or so back about painting skin. I would watch that and then maybe just dial it back a little bit, because he, being a pro painter and painting really fancy, he does layer after layer after layer after layer and all that kind of stuff, and a lot of blending and whatnot. If you take some of those things and go, well, I'll dial it back and do a third of that because I'm just trying to do it for tabletop, you'd probably be okay. So the point system won't be freely downloadable. Actually, I don't know about that. From what I understand, they're releasing a book, and I don't know if it's freely downloadable or if it's something you buy. That I don't know yet. And I don't know if they've announced whether it's something. I think it's something you buy, but I'm not sure about that. Let's see here. J.E. Granberg says, starting to assemble Malifaux forces and need to build some homemade terrain. Any recommendations on forgiving materials? Foam core. That pink insulation foam that they put on the outside of the house, that stuff's easy to carve. You have to coat it with something before you try to spray paint it, otherwise you'll melt it. But you can just like watered down PVA glue, you just brush it over it, and then you could spray paint on top of it. But those things are pretty good too. Jake just asked if I've thought about getting into 30K. Only in the slightest little bit, but not too much, no. Let's see here. Foam card is the best material for scratch building. Cuts easily and glues together well with PVA glue. No, it's true. I have built plenty of stuff out of foam core, and I do like it. I am painting some high elves with blue silvery armor. That's kind of their color scheme that I think they look coolest in. So the blue silver kind of mixture, I do like that look on those guys. Let's see here. Hello from Sweden. I love these Sunday shows. You're great Sunday afternoon company. One request: please always stick to talking about hobby stuff and never go anywhere near politics. Yeah, there's no chance of that. I'm not into politics, so don't worry about that. Let's see here. Are you going to be doing battle reports soon? Yes, in the geographic soon. Like, I'm hoping to get some done this year. I definitely am, because I get people asking me about it a lot, and I want to do it, but I want to do it right, and I need the space to be set up properly, and right now my basement is kind of a giant problem. So that is something I'm working on fixing, but it's going to take some time. But I do want to definitely do it. I'm going to be doing some Frostgrave, I'm going to be doing some Age of Sigmar, and probably something post-apocalyptic, probably either some Wreck Age or some This Is Not a Test, or maybe a mixture of the two. But yeah, I am working on it. It's just I'm not a super big battle report fan. Like, I don't watch a lot of them, frankly. So I want them to be different than other people's, and yeah, that's taken a bit of work to try to figure out. So let's see here. Is a company allowed to show a higher quality object on the packaging than the contents of the box? Higher quality? Yeah, that's a good question. Pretty much everybody always shows really well. If they show an actual image of the model, they've obviously been super pro painted and stuff like that. But if it's like an actual better sculpt or like a master sculpt and not the actual production sculpt, then I think that's not real cool. So, Army Painter spray cans are good for undercoats. Yeah, I mean, the Army Painter sprays are a little expensive, but the nice thing is that you can make them match a color really, really nicely. So, and they have a super wide selection of every different type of color out there. They used to be able to make their colors, and the names were almost exactly the same as GW paints in some situations, but they can't do that anymore. So, but still, you can go online and go, well, what's the best Army Painter spray to match up with this GW color? And there are people out there that'll be able to tell you that. So, yeah. Jeremy Draxler says, I have to say I have thought about getting into GW games for a long time. I'm a huge Battletech and Avalon Hill guy, but I always found the Warhammer crews to be very, not rude, but hard to talk to. See, I've so rarely ever been in an actual GW store because we have literally, I think, 2 in the entire state of Wisconsin, and they're both more than 100 miles away from me. I've never really dealt with any of that. I've heard people say that before, but I've also heard people say that they absolutely love their local GW retailer, and so I guess it kind of depends on your local area and who's working where or whatever. Let's see here. Can you use all 30K models in 40K games? I wouldn't see why not, but I don't know that for sure. I think you could use some. They could just be like really old Space Marines maybe, or something like that, or just it's relic armor, that kind of stuff. I'm not sure. Anything about Infinity in the near future? Not in a geological sense of the word near. Well, I have friends that are starting to play Infinity. I have played a demo of Infinity with Sam. I didn't particularly enjoy the rules set. Like, it's very different than anything else I've played. It's got a very different thing going on. At one point, like, Sam had a character, and so I was over here, okay, and Sam had a character that climbed up a piece of terrain, and there was a wall on top, or like a little half wall on top of the terrain, and there was a little hole in the wall, and he climbed up, but he was not able to go up against the actual piece of the wall. So he's like, can you see my guy? And I get down low and I look, and I'm like, well, I can see him through that tiny little hole, but that's it. He's like, okay, well, you can shoot at him. I'm like, okay, well, how much cover do you get? He's like, I don't get any cover. I'm like, why don't you get any cover? He's like, because I'm not snugged up against the wall. I'm like, so I can barely see you. You climbed up from behind this wall, but because you're not touching that little tiny wall, and I can see you through a hole, I can shoot you with no cover. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, see, it's just little rules like that that are kind of bothersome to me. And also, I'm not a big fan of metal models generally. That all said, like I said, I've got friends that are starting to play it in the local area, and I do own some of it. I just haven't built it. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm starting to get in that direction. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll see how it goes. I mean, I like sci-fi stuff, but I don't like anime stuff generally, and this stuff, a lot of Infinity reminds me of kind of a very anime kind of thing. I like grungier, darker kind of stuff. I mean, I'm going to definitely, if I ever paint my Infinity guys, they're going to be painted grungy and dark. That's just the way it works. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm not sure about Infinity yet, but I know it's getting much more popular, and I'm glad to see that people are digging it. It's just I'm not 100% sure yet if it's for me. So we'll see how that goes. That being said, I'm kind of going to a small local kind of private Infinity event sometime in June that some friends of mine are doing, actually. And I'm going to go travel to that. I might take some pictures there, see how it goes, maybe a little bit of video. I mean, when I say private, I'm talking like less than 10 people. So it should, it'll be interesting to see, though. Let's see here. Wargamer Girls bat reps are awesome to watch. They do great work over there on that channel. It's, it takes a ton of work for them to put them out to that quality, which is why you only see a couple a month. But yeah, her bat reps are really, really good. Let's see here. Have you looked into Dark Age? It's sci-fi but grungy post-apocalyptic sci-fi. Yes, I have looked into Dark Age. I've got actually a crew built and painted, and I played a game And the rules set, again, just sort of like, there's times when like things happen, you're like, okay, well, when this happens, this is what you, and there's just little parts about rule sets. I'm like, well, that doesn't make any sense to me, you know? And so one of these days I should really just show off my models for that game on one of these things, just because I really like the paint job I did on some of them. I think they turned out great, and they are really super cool models. But yeah, I just didn't, I don't know. The rule set sort of bothered me, but like I said, the models are super cool. Let's see here. You guys are talking about all kinds of stuff going on here. Let's see here. Am we looking at an alternative sculpt for Archaon's mount? I don't know what that would be. Sam just painted an Archaon, the new one, on the big three-headed dragon guy, and it looked amazing. I don't know if you watched the video he did about lava bases, but there's some photos of it in there. And I think he posted some of the stuff about Archaon on the Paint Showcase Club, and it's crazy. Yeah. Let's see here. The Gamer Thing says, Adam, I think you convinced me to try and get into Age of Sigmar. I did wonder, though, do most places that play the game let you use non-Warhammer minis as your army? As long as you're not in a Games Workshop store, they probably don't care. If it's stuff you bought there or whatever, or if you bought at least some of your stuff there, they generally don't care. I know a guy at my local store who was building a big zombie army, and he went with mostly Mantic zombies. So, yeah, most stores, like I said, if you tried to walk into a GW store to play Age of Sigmar game and you brought in Mantic zombies, they'd probably not be cool with that. But, in any other regular independent type store, I don't think they would have a problem with that. Justicar says, show us your chaos stuff, man. No, it's true. I probably should be doing that. I'm going to move Owly out of the way, and I'm going to start showing you some of the chaos stuff that I've been working on that is painted. I've got a lot more to go, but I do have... Some of it's very spiky, so it's difficult to get out of the foam. Hey, look, there's a Varangard. And there's another one. And here's another one. So, these guys are some of the newer models that I have built and painted for my Chaos Army. I have mentioned several times before how I think that these guys are probably overpriced. And by that I don't mean overcosted in points, because we're not using points. I mean it costs $100 retail US for these three guys. Now these are big horses. These are big guys. But the fact of the matter is that, like, luckily my local store sells everything for 20% off, so I got them for $80. And I also had some, store credit, so that really helped a lot too. But yeah, these guys, they are amazing looking models, and they're actually quite powerful in the game. People who I play with are frequently kind of a bit afraid of them, but yeah, they're still, I think, a little bit more expensive than they ought to be. I think they should be retail at $80, and then I could get them 20% off of that, but I could be wrong. So yeah, these guys, like, I really enjoyed kind of painting them. I worked in mostly greens and silvers, because most of my Chaos Army is very Nurgle based, so I wanted to... These guys cannot be marked with Mark of Nurgle or Mark of anything unless you also have Archaon in your army, which sort of stinks. I kind of don't dig that, but, well, I generally, when I use these guys in a game, I run them up a flank on either side and then try to come around from behind, and even though they may not necessarily get to attack from behind or whatever, it always makes the opponent go, well, those guys are dangerous. I have to peel some guys off and go mess with them, because I can't just let them run around my backfield. So, and they're fast because they're cavalry, and they're very powerful. They get like 6 attacks with their ensorcelled weapons. You could build them with either some sort of fell spears, or you could build them with demon weapons or whatever, but I just went straight with the ensorcelled weapons on all of them, because 6 attacks, like 3 up, that kind of stuff. They're nice. Their shields are pretty cool. The shields give them the ability to, basically, if you have a wizard try to target them with stuff, they can kind of bounce a lot of the powers that wizards get off of them. They have to roll something or whatever, but yeah. I did a lot of fun basing, because I love to do lots of textured basing. This one's got shield kind of like buried underground, and there's also a skull with or a spike with a skull on it, which is a lot of fun. Here's some horse butt or whatever. They all have different like this one's got normal hooves, like horse type hooves, strange lizard tail. Some of them have like their back hooves are horses, and then their front are like claws. They're crazy looking. But yeah, so I like doing this kind of stuff, and painting them was a lot of fun. I wanted to keep the horses themselves very dark, so they're mostly like black and then some gray. You've got some kind of real grungy looking sort of leather work there, and you've got some leather down here, and this is all like chainmail. But yeah, that's one guy here. This one. And the thing is that, and I don't usually do this, but I actually kept their torsos off, including the shield. So I painted them separately, like on sticks, and worked on them that way. And then I glued them on at the last minute because I knew I wasn't going to be able to get underneath a lot of this stuff if the shield was in the way. So I needed to paint them separately. But generally, I don't do that too much. So yeah, so these are. Again, we've got another shield half buried in the ground, and all I do for that, if I'm going to be like burying a shield half in the ground, I just clip it off, glue it down, and then make sure I get grit kind of around it so that it's sort of, you can kind of see it here. It just basically looks like it's like been half buried in the ground because it's just got, like I said, I just shave it off, glue it to the base on the plastic, and then I do the texturing up against it so that it looks like the sand is trying to reclaim it, or whatever, that kind of stuff. Sometimes I lay them down flat and try to cover them, but these I wanted to look like they'd been sort of stuffed or stuck in the ground. That was kind of my plan. Yeah, this guy's got the cool, crazy, weird, kind of chaosy bug eye, helmet and stuff. The rider, like, doesn't have any eyes at all. He's got like a metal like blindfold over him, which is crazy. And then this crazy sword, if it'll focus. That's difficult. But yeah, so just the sculpts on these I think are amazing. They're really cool. This guy has got this huge honking axe, which is really neat. And then these big horns and the big skull on his shoulder there. And his horse has got... It's almost like a dragon mouth. You know what I mean? They're great looking sculpts. And I really enjoyed painting them and texturing and doing all that stuff in the base. He's got a very spiky but yet sort of furry tail. You have to be a little careful with him because like this guy's only attached in two spots. Like his back legs are the only spots where they're attached. But yeah, those guys are, I think, really cool. And I'm going to set them here while I dig out the next dudes to take a look at. Let's see here. Does your store sell all GW for 20% off? I might have to make the drive. Stores here give no discount. Yeah, pretty much everything GW, except for the start collecting boxes. He doesn't seem to sell those at 20% off, but they're so cheap in comparison. They're like $85, and they usually come with an $80 to $85 figure in them. So he's kind of like, well, But in general, most everything else is 20% off, yeah. Let's see here. They're handsome models, but that price, yeah, no, I agree. I really do agree. Let's see here. Rhino of Pleasure. Start collecting Space Marines. Yeah, the start collecting boxes are great, which I've mentioned a bunch of times before. Let me try to see if I can get some guys out of here. It's awful dark here, so it's hard to see what I'm looking at. All right, so this is... All right, horse dudes, you're going to move over here. So this is probably the oldest model that I have in my collection, and I haven't had him for a long time, but he is an old sculpt, and he is actually made out of metal. And this is the Rotbringer Sorcerer. So I'm going to try to get him where you can kind of see him a little better. He's a metal model, and I got him on eBay, and he came like on a square base and the whole deal and all that jazz. So I had to go through and I don't know if I can get any closer. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, he's this little dude in this little crazy cloak, and you can see here he's got these scrolls under his arm, and I've used a super fine .005 marker, like a brown sepia marker, to draw in the script on his little scroll, or his scrolls, you know, and he's got this kind of weird looking staff, which frankly I don't 100% like, but these colors are really kind of dull, as it turns out, at least what it looks like on my screen. He's a little bit like, that bug under his arm is a little bit more green on my screen, and his skin's a little bit more kind of dead flesh, pale yellow-green. But he's a decent figure. He's got a cool power, too, that basically if he gets a spell off and it works, he gets a point of health back. And even if he's at full health, he just gets an extra. So I think he's like 6 or 7 wounds. I think he's 6 wounds maybe to start. And if he fires off a spell and it works, then now he's at 7 wounds. And he can just keep building them up like that. So that's sort of cool. If he's taking damage, well, then he can kind of, you know, get some damage back that way. But he's a cool figure. He's got a relatively simple dark, you know, back. He's got like little glyphs and runes and things somehow etched in his cloak. I'm not quite sure how that works. But yeah, I've added a little resin skull down here. I bought a bag of skulls from Secret Weapon Miniatures. They have a thing called Bag of Skulls, and they're little resin skulls, and they work great for just putting fun little, you know, pieces of texture and interest in your bases. That's the kind of stuff that I like. GW Miniatures with a skull. What a surprise. No, it's true. There's a lot of skulls in GW Miniatures. Let's see here. They do not sell a start collecting dwarfs. Yeah, I don't think they do yet. What about Fire Slayers? Do they do one for Fire Slayers? I know regular dwarfs they don't yet. I'm thinking about starting Chaos for Age of Sigmar. How do you think the best way to start would be? I think that there's at least a couple of different Chaos start collecting boxes, and I would probably go with one of those. I know there's one that's got a bunch of Warriors of Chaos in it. I'd probably start with something like that. Adam, any 40k Chaos? I don't have any up here. I did used to play Chaos Space Marines, but I don't have any up here right now, and I haven't been doing any 40k anymore. Like, if I've painted it, I'm keeping it, but any other stuff that I've built but not painted is eventually going to get sold off on eBay. So, yeah, I haven't really been playing any 40k. I'm trying to get these guys out, sorry. Where's the last guy? Here he is. Oops. That's the problem with Chaos, is they're very spiky and very difficult to get out of foam sometimes. All right, these guys, man, I really dig. This is before Age of Sigmar. This unit of models came out called the Putrid Blight Kings, and I thought, those are so amazing looking. I need to buy them just because I want to paint them. I'll use them for some other game, or I'll use them for something else. And then when Age of Sigmar came along, and I was like, well, you see, I already have a unit of Putrid Blight Kings that will work great for what I want to do. So I was really super happy to be able to put them together and start painting them. These models are awesome because you can build them so many different ways, too. Like, there are so many parts left over in the first box of these guys that I did that I've used other parts for different models and things like that. But I have another box of them. When I put another 10 of them together, I can use the same 5 guys, but put them together in such different ways, different torsos, all kinds of different heads. They won't look anything alike. So they're super variable, and you can do a ton of cool stuff with them. So here's one. He has something going wrong with his midriff. He's got like a mouth going on down here, and there's like a tongue coming out. I wish this would focus a touch better. Yeah, these guys are just amazing looking to me. I love painting like this style of Nurgle stuff with all the weird little, you know, pustules all over. You know, he's got like pustules on his back, and he's got a weird little, you know, loincloth over his ass. Luckily for all of us, so we don't have to see that kind of stuff. Yeah, you can see that mouth. Man, I wish this would focus a bit closer. I'm going to move this coffee mug. I feel like it's focusing too much on the coffee mug. But yeah, these are great models. It's a ton of cool stuff for, like, you know, rotted out metal. Like, how can you paint like metal that looks rusty or you know, messed up in just any kind of different way, whether it's got a patina or whether it's got, you know, any kind of stuff like that. This is another piece of armor. Like, I did a lot of kind of a blue-green patina wash on this guy to make it really look like he had a lot of verdigris. I'm not sure exactly what the term is. But yeah, so again, I love doing a lot of the basing, so I've got a little rocky base going on there. Most of these guys have got usually some like, heads hanging off of their armor. Not necessarily skulls. Some of them have skulls, but a lot of them just have like, well, I took this guy's head and now it's going to be on the, back of my shoulder pad for whatever reason. Cool shields. There's just a lot of really interesting stuff with these guys. They're great models. Super, super characterful. This one here is my like aspiring champion or whatever the boss is called. I give him this guy is that one just because he's got the most armor and it seems to be roughly the cleanest, I guess. So, but again, like that shield is kind of amazing because it's very nurgly, but it's still wood and metal and just all the different chains, and you got another skull hanging off of him, and he's got like another red. The reason I went with, in most of these situations, red, like tabards and loincloths and stuff like that, is just because it helps to contrast. Red is the opposite color of green, so it kind of helps add in some contrast. There's a lot of washes I did on these guys, a lot of that kind of stuff. It's interesting to do. I love painting Nurgle stuff because you can sort of just slop it up and it looks just fine because it's Nurgle and that's kind of what they do. This guy has antlers and, frankly, some moobs kind of going on there. He's got some sort of man boobs. And he's got something, again, going on with his midriff. That looks like he should probably put some Bactine on it or something. I don't know. That doesn't look good. But, yeah, I don't know what's with the antlers, but it's just an awesome-looking model. And, he's got this cool... I went with this kind of cool brassy sort of colored shield, but again, there's a lot of that green that gets in all the cracks and stuff like that. That works out really super cool. Let's see. And then this last one, he's got a scythe. And he's also sort of got antlers as well. I'm not sure what it is with like Nurgle and antlers. I don't know what that is, but it's cool. Yeah, I really like these guys a lot. And they're not super. I mean, they're not monstrous in the game, but they're effective. I've got, like I said, I've got another box of 5 of them sitting in the basement that are eventually going to get built, so I can run these guys either in 2 units of 5 or a unit of 10. The unit of 10 will have also a banner guy and basically like a musician type guy. The musician guy's got like a big bell that tolls, I assume. And the banner guy's got like this kind of big giant fly, 3-eyed sort of thing on it or whatever and stuff. So that gives you extra benefits in the rules in the War Scroll. And so when I'm running them right now, I just basically have the one guy who's the boss and the 4 regular dudes. So I don't get any of those particular benefits. But I want to probably start running them maybe even in a group of 10, but we'll see how it goes. But yeah, they're great. They're great models. I'm going to kind of scooch these guys over here a little bit and see. Let's see here. The problem with the Start collecting boxes is that they are insanely tempting, but you only have limited space on your desk. No, that's very true, Peter Pan. That's very true, because there's a lot of them I'm like, oh man, I'd pick that up, and I'm like, but I don't. As it is, I've only bought the one, which was the Skeleton Horde, and super happy with the purchase because it's an amazing value. There's an $80 figure in an $85 box, plus it still comes with 10 skeletons and 5 hex wraiths. So yeah, they're great. For Sigmar, you can totally have good games with those Start collecting boxes. Absolutely. I mean, honestly, when we're playing our normal games lately, we generally have less than 30 figures per side. Like the Start collecting box for the skeletons comes with something like 16 figures. So right there, I mean, that's a decent sized game. You could play it just with those, and some of them have more. It's best to find a few friends that go in on a Forge World order to get the free shipping amount. That is also true. I have friends who every maybe 6 months or so will get together and be like, hey, we're thinking about making a Forge World order. And so a bunch of people will get together, and then somebody, and then people give each other money and do this, that, and the other thing, and then they all get shipped to someone's house, and then they get distributed. And yeah, that's the best way, is to kind of to group for Forge World, because there's a certain limit to how much you buy, at which point you get the free shipping. And that's the best way to do it, frankly. So yeah, find some other people who are also interested and buy enough stuff to hit that threshold, and then you're kind of set. You can make every guy a banner bearer if you want. Yeah, technically that's true. Well, they may be changing that in the FAQ, but I don't remember. But I guess if you want to, yeah, you could. But the question is that, like, you'd have to build them all that way, and it would look a little weird. So, I mean, it's up to you, though. Again, they've given you this rule set that's pretty freeform, and you can do what you want, which I kind of like. Seraphon starting box is such a ridiculous deal. Buy a Carnifex and get a box of Saurus Knights and 12 Warriors, basically for free. Yeah, it's true, because the Carnifex, or the Carnosaur, whatever his name is, he's like an $85 model by himself. So, yeah. Let's see here. What did you think about Last Chance to Buy? I had to buy the High Elves Battalion quickly. I think it's nice that they're at least saying, oh, hey, by the way, these are going to be kind of discontinued, so this is your last chance to buy. And I'm sure it's, it's a marketing thing. It makes sense. But I think that you're in a situation where, some people are like, well, are they going to bring some of that stuff back later or not? And there's been a lot of gnashing of teeth back and forth about that stuff. It's hard to say, I think, I don't know. I have a suspicion they might not necessarily bring back some of the stuff. They may bring it back with a different sculpt, a new updated sculpt. Hard to say. I don't know. They can't have everything because they just don't have the warehouse space over time. It's a cost savings to kind of pare back a little bit of the line, which I understand. Slaves of Darkness is a great chaos box. Yeah, no, that's totally true. Let's see here. I live in South Africa. There doesn't seem to be a lot of plays selling this type of stuff. So far, I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen, people have mentioned, I know in Brazil, there's not a lot of miniature gaming either. I've had a person on here before talk about how there's literally one distributor, and they crank the prices up on GW stuff to 2 to 3 times as, normal retail. And so that's a bummer. So yeah, I don't exactly, I guess in some of those situations, then maybe you look for seeing if you can find stuff on eBay, or maybe just play a different game system that's not Games Workshop that gets marked up a lot in those situations. There's a lot of there's a great game system that I enjoy quite a bit called Song of Blades and Heroes, and it's made by an Italian person, and his name's Andrea, and I will not attempt his last name because I always screw it up, but he sells it as a PDF. You just download it, it's like $8 American. You download it, and then you print it or don't. You keep it on your tablet or whatever you want, and it's a great little skirmish fantasy system. It's a lot of fun. I run it at conventions because it's quick and easy to teach to people who don't generally play that stuff, but it's still got some definite strategy and some fun that way. And you can use whatever models you want. I frequently use Dungeons and Dragons pre-paints for the models that I'm having, the people that I'm teaching. I give them a bunch of pre-paints because then they can get sticky fingers or whatever all over it. But the guys that I run, who are the bad guys in that scenario, are usually a bunch of skeletons that I've had painted or that I've painted, and I don't necessarily want to let other people mess with those. So and I teach kids and stuff like that, and those pre-paints, they take a lot of damage. It's hard to break a pre-paint. So we totally need new elves, says Rhino of Pleasure. From what I understand, the elves are coming. The rumors are saying that elves are coming, at least wood elves are coming sometime late summer, I think. So I'm looking forward to that. Lucas Watson says, just saying hi. Listen to you while painting my Flames of War on study leave. It's great to listen back. What do you think of Citadel baiting paints? I don't know what baiting paints are. I'm sorry. Maybe that was a typo. Basing paints. I'm sorry. Yeah, what do you think of the basing paints? I don't use them too much. The only time I ever use the textured paints from GW are really if I'm painting tanks, like a rhino, let's say, and at the very last step I want to put some gritty mud on the treads, then I'll use those. But for actual basing, I use other stuff, mostly baking soda, frankly. All of these guys, if you look here, if I can get it to focus, the flatter areas that has a really super fine texture, which you can barely see here because it's not focusing properly, that flatter texture, I had it for a second, is mainly baking soda on CA glue. The chunkier, bumpier stuff is kitty litter, frankly. So that's generally how I base stuff. So the basing paints from GW, like I said, I only use them if I want mud on tracks. I use the dark brown, and then it's got some grittiness, and it's a dark brown color already, and it's fine. But I don't usually use that stuff on bases like this. We need guerrilla warriors, apes with axes. That would be interesting. Let's see here. Good luck with your exams, Mr. Lane. From what I understand, wood elves are supposed to be getting new sculpts. that noise you hear in the background is Diesel, my cat. He is wanting to be on the show, evidently. Let's see here. What do you think of the Seraphon army? I almost went with Seraphon instead of Death because I really thought the lizards were cool. I've always thought the lizardmen were really neat. But then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, I do like skeletons a little better, and I think that they would probably be easier to paint than the lizards. I mean, you can do some really quick and interesting stuff with the lizards, but I don't think they're going to be as easy to paint as the skeletons, so that's why I went with them. Let's see here. I bought some secondhand Chaos Marauders from a few editions back. Any attempts on how to transform them into Dark Elf Corsairs? Oi. Dark Elf Corsairs out of Chaos Marauders. Yeah, you'd have to give them pointy ears somehow, and I'm not quite sure how you do that. Yeah, I'm not sure how that's a conversion project that would take a lot of time, I'll bet. Yeah, definitely. Currently working on Oryx. Loving their chunky style. Makes them feel substantial both in painting and playing. Yeah, no, I agree. They are super cool models, and I think that potentially Sam is going to maybe start getting into Orcs, because he used to play Orcs in 40k, and I think he might be getting into them for Age of Sigmar, because he's been talking about him and looking at him, and I know he has been painting some stuff. If you follow Sam's blog, which is, if you look on any of the videos he's done, it's usually listed at the beginning and the end. It's also listed in the description of the video, and it's samsonminis.blogspot.com. He recently just posted a painting, some paint that he did from some orc stuff, which was really cool. Do you believe that Lord of the Rings SBG will come back with new releases? Probably not, but I don't know that for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of don't feel like it will, but, maybe. I don't think they're making any more movies anymore, so I don't know if there's going to be a huge draw for it. But I am glad that they're keeping the game system in the Specialist Games line and going to be doing some stuff like that. So there may be, I think, but they're putting most of their Specialist Games resources right now into things like Blood Bowl and Mordheim and stuff like that. We all know about Blood Bowl. We know Blood Bowl is coming. It's the first one. And I'm glad to see. My initial thought was that they were going to do like Betrayal at Kelth and Operation Overkill and stuff like that, where they're just like, well, here's Blood Bowl, it's a box, and we're done. You know what I mean? There's humans, orcs, there's a pitch, there's some dice, there's the instructions, there's the box, buy it, play it, we're done, we're going on to the next one. My fear was that's what they were going to do with all of these new Specialist games, or the reboots of the Specialist games. But as it turns out, from what they showed at Warhammer World, they're doing a box that's going to have orcs and humans in it, like it always does, but then they're also saying, well, here's all the other, teams that we're going to be selling as well. So that's heartening, I think, at least for Blood Bowl, that they're going to be putting more time into it instead of the kind of, frankly, fire and forget that they did with, like, Betrayal at Kelth. They made these amazing-looking 30K plastic Space Marines and made it a board game, but most people bought them because they wanted to play 30K with them. Although I've heard the board game is fine. But, then people were like, awesome, so now you're going to do like these guys in 30K and these guys in 30K, and they're kind of like, well, no, we're done with that pretty much. As far as it seems, like they haven't said anything else about the 30K stuff. So my concern is that's what they were going to do with each of the Specialist games, was just like, here's a box for Mordheim, we're done with it, now we're going on to the next one. But as it seems, at least with Blood Bowl, they're like, here's the box for Blood Bowl, but here's also, like, I think there's 4 to 6 extra teams that they showed off at Warhammer World. So that's good. That's a good thing, I think, for that stuff. Daniil Aramiv, I'm sorry, I can't pronounce that very well. What do you think of Bolt Action? I like the concept of it. Some of the guys in my local group, we got into Flames of War first. And honestly, I sort of wish we would have gotten into Bolt Action instead, because just from what I've been reading in the rules, I sort of think I like the rules a little bit better for Bolt Action, but I don't know anybody else who plays it around here. I do know people who play Flames of War. I have a Flames of War army now. Some of it is painted. But yeah, I think there's a part of me that kind of wishes that we would have gone Bolt Action, but at this point we're kind of down the rabbit hole, because I've got tons of little 15mm houses and trees and all that jazz, and so that stuff doesn't work very well with the 28mm scale. So yeah, but from what I understand, it's a good game, and Like there's lots of different models of systems out there you can get. You don't just have to buy the Warlord stuff. There's other companies that make stuff. And I really like the activation thing where you put all the little chips in the bag and you take them out one at a time to see what goes next and all that kind of stuff. I like that. That's a cool system. So, yeah. Dust has apes. That's true. Dust does have apes. You guys were talking about apes before. Dust has apes, and an old game called AT-43 also had space apes, which was fun. Let's see here. Is Bretonia dead forever? Probably not. I think that they will probably eventually come back with something like that. Let's see here. When Age of Sigmar came out, a comic book store was selling army books for more than 90% off. Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of the fantasy army books are not really super useful anymore, so a lot of them were trying to get rid of them, you know. Which do you think have the better models from a painting perspective? AOK, which I'm wondering if you mean Age of Sigmar, or 40K, unless there's an AOK, some other game, I'm not sure. I think that they're pretty equal. I think that, you know, the Age of Sigmar stuff and the 40K stuff, I see great stuff. Like, all this Skitari stuff I think is super cool looking. I just kind of don't want to go down that rabbit hole anymore. But to be fair, I did buy a box of the Castellan robots, which is, there's two of those like weird rounded kind of almost like 1950s looking like Fallout type robots. I bought one of those honestly because I want to put that robot together and use it in This Is Not a Test, which is a post-apocalyptic skirmish game that's very, very, very much influenced by the Fallout universe. You should check it out. It's made by a company called World's End Publishing, and you can run like different robots in that game here and there. And I'm just like, when I saw those robots come out, they're red obviously because there's Skitari and it's Mars and all that stuff. But when I saw that robot come out, I'm like, if I paint that guy olive drab and put like a star on his chest, he is going to look just like he fell out of Fallout. So, yeah, I'm working on it, but I haven't gotten there yet. But I do at least own the model, of course. So, you know, I've got more models in the basement, of course, which is helpful. New 30K will be coming this fall, from what I've been told by staff at GW. Well, that'd be great, you know, I mean, because I know people liked it. If they do start doing, like, they've been doing lots of 30K, obviously, through Forge World, but if they start coming out with new plastic stuff, that'll help. I don't even know how you play 30K, like, I think you have to get a book from Forge World. I don't think, it's not the regular rules. I think it's, from what I understand, it's a modification of the rules, but I don't know a ton about it. I know a couple of people who like it and paint it, and I don't know if they play it, but they do like it and paint it. But obviously, the Betrayal at Calth box was super popular, and people like to buy it just mainly for that sort of situation. What do I think of Warhammer Quest Silver Tower? I have not played it. I saw it played at ACD Games Day. I couldn't get in on a demo. You know, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I'd have to try it out. You know, I like Space Hulk, which is sort of the same sort of board game, you know, miniature game hybrid. So, you know, maybe it's cool that way. But I would like to. Really what I want to do is I want to see somebody do a battle report. I said before that I don't usually watch a lot of battle reports, but I would like to see a battle report for Silver Tower because I'd like to see how it's played. You know, like what goes on and that kind of stuff. So. I'll have to look for some sort of battle reports based off of that. What do you think about Warhammer Total War game? I've never played any of the Total War video games, and I'm glad that they made one for Warhammer. It sounds really cool. I don't really play much in the way of PC games, so it's unlikely that I'm going to play it. But I think it's really great that they made. You know, went forward in that. They were mainly a historical series, from what I understand. Total War Rome, Total War, you know, medieval, whatever, that kind of stuff. So to do this kind of more fantasy one is really kind of interesting, and I'm glad they did it, and I hope it sells really well for them. I like Flames of War. Rhino of Pleasure says, I like Flames of War better, but that's probably because of I like tanks. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I went US because I love, for whatever reason, I love the Sherman M4A1, not the M4A3, not the any of just the A1 that has the very rounded kind of cast hull. I've just always loved the look of them, even though they are sort of lousy in the game. I've always loved the look of them. To me, that's what a tank looks like, and so I've got a bunch of those. And yeah, I try not to get too many people in the game. I don't like too much infantry. I mainly like the the tanks. But yeah, that is a lot of fun. What do you think about the new Battle of Vedros set? I looked at it a little bit at ACD Games Day, actually. They had like a little display. And it's basically they've taken the models from Assault on Black Reach and put them into smaller boxes, which is cool, because they're easy snap together parts. They're aiming at, obviously, like hobby stores, not like gaming hobby, but like, model airplane, that kind of hobby stores. And I think they're trying to get them into places like Target and Walmart and whatever. I don't know if they will or not, but it'll be interesting to see, how that works out for them. I just think it's good that they're trying to finally reach out and get new players, because for the longest time it did not seem like they were trying to do that, and it's really great that Games Workshop is at least looking like they're trying to put some effort into it. All right. Cliff Spears asks, have you looked at Team Yankee? I've watched some of the stuff on Beasts of War about Team Yankee. It looks sort of interesting, but it doesn't look like something that I would... Like, I'm already doing Flames of War, and so I'm like, I don't know that I want to go into Team Yankee for that. Even though I think that, like, a lot of them, like the tanks are a lot cooler in my mind. Well, not... The tanks are cooler because they're actually plastic now. For the longest time, for those of you who don't know, the Flames of War tanks, the ones made by Battlefront, have been predominantly like a resin hull, and then usually like a resin turret with sometimes even a metal barrel and like metal treads. And they were problematic at best. So yeah, what I'm finding now is that they are they're starting to Battlefront's finally starting to do plastic. So they're making nice plastic models. The M26 Pershings were great plastic models that went together super well and looked great. From what I understand, the majority of the tanks in Team Yankee are all plastic, so they look great and everything like that, because some of the older ones were really chunky and problematic. So yeah, that's it's cool that they're doing it, but I don't know that I'm going to go down in that direction. But I'm glad they're doing it. Let's see here. And now the other cat is making a lot of noise. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. All right, so I've got some more models to show you. I'm going to be pulling out some... How about some goat people? Everybody loves the goat people. All right, maybe they don't. I love the goat people. So one of the reasons that I really like Age of Sigmar is the fact that I can run a group of goat people and Nurgle and Warriors of Chaos and all that stuff and put them all together into one force, which was not as easy from what I understand. I have been told multiple times online now that I am wrong, and you could totally do it back in the old fantasy days. Well, sure, I suppose that's the case. But now it's much easier from what I understand. Is that all of them? It's hard to tell. I think this is a smattering of them, so I don't have all of them. So I got these guys. Actually, I bought these guys quite some time ago because... Actually, I bought these guys when I was playing 40K because I wanted to do a bunch of modifications. I wanted a bunch of Plague Marines with power axes. And so I bought these guys because I'm like, well, these guys have got cool axes. And like some of them have arms that look like goat arms, but some of them have like slightly more armored arms. So I could use them as, power armor on Plague Marines, and that's be fine. And then this box sat in my basement, as boxes do. And then eventually when Age of Sigmar started coming out and I started working on Chaos stuff, because I loved my Nurgle and I loved the Putrid Blight Kings, which are over there. You can't see them anymore. All of a sudden I was like, well, wait a minute. Don't I have a whole bunch of goat people? And so, these guys were a lot of fun. These were some of the groups of... These guys were some of the first guys that I ever put on paint sticks to start doing the painting with, and it worked out super well. I went with basically, hand, weapon, and shield on all of them, and... the shield thing really helps it gives them a slightly better armor save. But they're basically a speed bump in most situations. They're usually designed to tie up, for maybe only a turn, some big bad that's heading your direction in Age of Sigmar. They're not particularly powerful. They're all like one wound, so they don't really do a lot. But they are cool looking, and I do like painting them. And they have such expressive... little faces. Like, I don't know if you can see that guy. He's angry. He's not a happy lad. You know what I mean? Because he's a goat people, and he's not happy about it. I do have the banner guy that I have to finish up. He's he's all painted. I just need to put something on his banner. And then this is the horn guy, the bray horn or whatever, who blows. He's basically the musician in the group. Some of the shields are super cool. Like this one's got like some green cloth that I put on the bottom, and there's just a hand just nailed there. I don't know why. Just a severed human hand nailed to the top of the shield. I guess it's some sort of trophy, most likely. I don't know what kind of skull this is, but it's a cool, it doesn't look like it's necessarily a goat person, but maybe it is. This guy's yelling, I think. I can't seem to get this to focus very well. I should probably mess with that a little bit more. But they all have kind of interesting and varied hand weapons, and some of them are sort of shouting, obviously, and some of them are not. But like this guy's got two, like almost looks like gazelle horns, like nailed to his shield, or whatever. I just love the detail in them, and they're great. They're not, like I said, they're not awesome models to have in the game, but they're great models to have. All that being said, I do have another 20 of these guys now to paint and everything, because a friend of mine bought 20 put together ones on 32 millimeter bases at Adepticon. There was a guy just selling stuff up in the bits trading area, and so he bought them for super cheap, thinking he was going to use them, and then he was like, "Oh, I'm not going to use them." So he sold them to me. So I got 20 put together on 32 millimeter bases, goat people, for like $12, which I was like, that's a super great deal. So then I just went through and I knocked off all the 32 millimeter bases. I just used a glue debonder and just took them off, and now I have a bunch of extra 32 millimeter bases that I can use for other things, and then I'm going to put them all on regular 25s, because I like these guys on 25s better than 32s. They just look better to me. And plus you can fit them closer together. If they were all on 32 millimeter bases, you would not be able to fit them as tightly together in groups, whereas these guys now in 25s, you can fit a lot more guys together, in the situation, as opposed to in a wider thing like that. So so I have a whole bunch more of these guys to paint, so I'll be able to make much bigger groups of them at some point, and that'll be cool. But yeah, they're a lot of fun. Let's see here. Do you think that the new GW Gemstone paint collection is really that much useful? I know that Vince Ventruella did a thing about them recently. I haven't seen them. They're not at my local store yet, so I don't know much about them. It seems as if they're basically just glossy paints, which it doesn't know. I don't know. Maybe there's more to it than that. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't paint a lot of gems on stuff. Being not an Eldar player, I don't do that a lot. So it's not something I'm interested in. I should read a little bit more about that stuff, I guess, and see if I know a little bit more about it. How often do you look through the Facebook page? I look through it pretty much every day. It shows up in my feed all the time. So I'm going through and looking at stuff, and I've been enjoying a lot of the stuff that I've been seeing in there. It's there's some really great painting and some even good photography of great painting, which is also really excellent. One tip I can give people is, if you're going to shoot pictures of your stuff, try and do it during the day, near a window, because natural light always looks better than flash. Flash makes everything look really harsh, and it does not properly convey your paint ability that well. So if you take, just go near a window and just, set it on this windowsill, or set it on a white piece of paper, or whatever you want to do. But, you can go and get fancy and build yourself a photo light box and stuff like that. I've got a video about how to do that. If you want to go that direction, great. And you can always tell when somebody's done that, because their pictures look amazing generally. But even just getting near a window makes them look a lot nicer, especially on a cloudy day, because it's a softer light, so you don't get as many harsh shadows. But hitting, putting a little tiny guy down and hitting it with a flash makes it super, super, it makes it real harsh looking. So, hello from Australia. Happy to catch the show live. Well, that's good. Yeah. Let's see here. Pumpkinhead says, I'm loving the freedom that Sigmar gives, bought Silver Tower, and boom, decided chaos all the way, and slowly picking up units I like and paint. Nice and refreshing after 20 years, 40k. I hear that a lot from people. I've heard a lot of people who've been getting into the hobby for the first time, people who are getting back into the hobby, and I'm also hearing from people who have been in the hobby for quite some time, but they've been in 40k or other games, and they're like, I like that I can just mix and match whatever I kind of want, and I can pick up a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And, like I said, I've said it a bunch of times, I think it was a really smart move from Games Workshop to do this, because it helps people get into the hobby. So, yeah. I'm starting a Chaos Army for Age of Sigmar, recycling my old models and pulling some from the basement. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's cool. Lisa Kubicek, how long do you spend on the average model to paint it? I am a slow painter, frankly. So, like, there were 10 of these guys that I did, the goat people. And like I said, I put them on those paint stirrers that you use for stirring house paint, and you get them from the hardware store. And I stuck them so that I could do like an assembly line, like, oh, this guy's shield, and then this guy's shield, and then this guy's shield, or whatever. These paint jobs are maybe, if I had to do the math and just say for a single guy, they're maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours for one guy. But since there was 10 of them, you're looking at least probably 10 hours, maybe 15 hours that it took me. And again, like I said, I'm a slow painter. I have watched good fast painters. Sam from the channel is an amazing fast painter. He does 10 times better work than I do in half the time, and it is astounding to me. But nonetheless, it can certainly take time, and it totally depends. Like, I would say these guys are tabletop, but some people's definition of what tabletop quality means versus non-tabletop, and like actually in focus quality, god dang it, people's definitions of what that means are definitely different. Plus, I have a tendency to enjoy painting. Like, I like stuff to look cool when I look at it, like here, and go, oh yeah, I like that. Well, okay, it's dark in here right now. But when I'm looking at a model, I like to look at it here and go, yeah, this looks really cool. A lot of people like to look at their models like from 3 feet away and go, yeah, that's where. To me, when you're looking at a model from 3 feet away and it looks good, then it's very high contrast, and it can sometimes look a little cartoony when you look at it close. I like to look at my models close, just always have. There's no right way. Generally the way that I paint, I don't think is what you see winning, not tournaments, but painting competitions. But I don't want to win any competitions, so it's fine. I like the way that I'm painting. I would like to paint better, certainly. You should never be like, this is the best that anyone could ever do, and I have done it, because that's never true. You could always get better at painting. Everybody, Sam, Tom Ailes, who I did the interview back in February 2014, the last American Slayer Sword winner, all these guys are always striving to get better. There's no such thing as, oh, I've gotten as good. There's no even such thing as, I've gotten as good as I can get. You can always get better just through practice. It's just the way it works. There's never like, well, I've reached my pinnacle, I'll never get better than this. That's not the case generally. You can always get better. But there will be some people who will always be, just that much further ahead of you, and it's fine. That's just the way the world works. Is Sam doing more painting tutorials? I enjoy watching him. Yeah, we filmed 2 last time that we got together. The first one you've probably seen. That's the lava base one. There's another one coming after that, and then we'll just keep doing them. We usually get together and shoot 2 episodes at a time. We do it about every month or so, and yeah, we'll just keep doing them. He's enjoying doing them. I'm enjoying having people see them. It gets him more exposure to his blog, and he's getting more commission stuff, and yeah, and he's a good guy, and I'd like to have him on the channel honestly more. I think that'd be cool. Richard Townley asks, what brushes do I use? I generally use the GW brushes. I don't know why. I'm not a big brush aficionado. I have a tendency to use those, and I like them just fine, but other people like to use pretty fancy brushes. I also have some of the Games and Gears brushes. Those are also really nice too, and I'm starting to transition a little bit more towards those because they are a little bit nicer. Yeah. Let's see here. Uncle Adam, personally, I like to paint my models under a SAD lamp. Oh, I missed that. A SAD lamp, I bet you, is seasonal affective disorder, meaning it's like a daylight bulb. This is like a daylight bulb here. This is made by a company called Ottlight, and it's yeah. I like to do that too, but I don't always. I do generally like to paint under a daylight bulb, though. I must admit, it's a joy to hear your opinion on Sigmar. So thanks for that. Slowly working my way through your older vids. Pumpkinhead. Absolutely, yeah. No, there's a lot of negative out there about Sigmar, and I don't think that it's warranted. I mean, people's opinions are people's opinions, certainly, but I think it's a good idea. I think it's a fun game. It's not for everybody, but not every game is for everybody. So, yeah. General's Handbook. That's Action Bastard says, "Are you excited for the General's Handbook? Adding point values." I couldn't remember what it was called before. I'm just interested for the General's Handbook coming out. I'm not a big points guy myself, but I'm glad that other people will get to have that, because a lot of people have been like, well, I'd love to play it, but I can't play without points. Well, now you'll be able to play it with points. So that's cool. Maybe the point system will be super awesome and I'll really dig it. I'm not a person who's going to be absolutely like, nope, not going to do it. But we'll see how it goes. I'm looking forward to that book coming out because it's also got new stuff for the free open play. It's also got new stuff for campaign and narrative play. So I'm looking forward to that as well too. Why people need a rule set. AOS was fine, but there was a huge amount of players who demanded an official rule set. Wasn't the player-made rules enough? I'm assuming you're talking about points. I don't. The thing is that because Games Workshop seems to be getting more, involved with the community again, finally, I think that they want to maybe they'll start running tournaments, or maybe they think it would just be easier if everybody was kind of using the same tournament rule set to some degree, at least as far as points. So, if they want to produce it and put it out there, that's fine. There's nothing to say, again, that South Coast GT guys might just keep sticking with their tournament rules and just do that. It totally depends. If it brings in some more people who've been staying away because they're like, I can't imagine playing a game without points. If it brings those people in, start playing with other people who want to play with points, awesome. It's great. Let's see here. I don't mind this change. It still means people can play the original way and also play other ways, so it's a good move. I agree. Cliff Spears says, got the Games and Gears brushes. They're awesome brushes. Yeah, I've talked about them a little bit with my Adepticon booty videos. They come in a little, there's a little pouch, and there's usually 3 or 4 brushes in there, and they kind of have a cap to them, you take them apart, you pull them apart, and then the bristles are on the inside, and then you flip it around and you stick it in there like when you do a pen, you pop the cap off and you put it in the back, and it's like that. Diesel. That's the cat. I'm going to have to put a picture of him up here so you guys can see when he's making noise. But yeah, they're like a nice system, I think, and I like the bristles are good. One of the brushes that they have that's really interesting doesn't even have bristles. It has a little silicone rubbery tip, and it's supposed to be really good for freehanding, but I kind of stink at freehanding, so I haven't really used it yet. But the Games and Gear brushes I think are kind of neat too. I know a lot of people use Kolinsky Sable and this and that and the other thing, and that's totally cool. Sam was talking about in one of his recent videos that he uses brushes he finds on Amazon. They're you get a whole set of brushes for $20. They're pretty cheap. At My Artscape, I think they're called, or something like that. If you look them up on Amazon, that's what he likes to use. And he's like, yeah, I know I should probably use better brushes, but I like using these. Being a commission painter, I could see wanting brushes that are just good enough, but yet that don't cost too much, so you can keep buying new ones as you kind of basically beat them to hell, in all of the painting. He paints pretty much every day of the week because he needs to. That's his job. So, that's how it works. Let's see here. What do you think of historical gaming as a whole? And I was thinking of maybe getting back into Black Powder or Hail Caesar. I was never interested in historical gaming at all, and I really honestly feel that in some people you just all of a sudden hit a certain age, and then all of a sudden there's a click in your head, and you're like, World War II is interesting. And that's kind of what happened to me with Flames of War. A bunch of us all of us heard the click at the same time, and we're like, tanks. And then we just started buying some Flames of War stuff. I've never really played any kind of Black Powder or Hail Caesar type of stuff. I'm vaguely interested in Saga. I think it's an interesting kind of rule set from what I've seen. But, I haven't done much other than Flames of War so far, I totally agree with getting better at painting. I'm always learning new techniques. Keeps things interesting as well. Also, thanks for the on the Painting Showcase group. I painted the Thunder Tusk. Yeah, the Thunder Tusk was very cool looking. I mean, it's just an awesome model, but you also did a good job on it. I remember that. I think it's always important to keep painting and to keep learning. We are so spoiled, as a society, as a world society now, generally kind of having this sort of information system where a dude in Wisconsin can just sit and talk to currently 222 people at the same time, and try to explain things, and people can learn and exchange ideas. There's tons of stuff going on in the chat and all that kind of stuff, and there's millions and millions of videos out there if you want to learn anything. I mean, like literally anything. My parents, I went over to their house one time and they're like, our shower is leaking, we think we need to call a plumber. And I'm like, hang on. And I went onto YouTube and I figured out how to fix the faucet, and then I went to the store, bought some washers and took it apart. And I'm no plumber, I've never done any of that before, but I was able to figure it out because of YouTube. So having all that knowledge and having all that stuff available to us, so much of it, frankly, if you look around, is so much of it is stuff that you couldn't learn 10 years ago online, or whatever, maybe 15. But so learning how to paint, learning how to do this stuff, it used to be you used to have to go talk to somebody, and now you can just look online and figure out how to do it and find out from all kinds of people. I don't know what he is just walking around the house meowing for no reason. What? Diesel. Anyway, how about the new scenery? I like them. Bet there will be bet there will be people converting them for AOS. The new scenery. Oh, yeah, like the new. There's a bunch of new scenery from Games Workshop that they're working on. Yeah, I've heard little bits about it, like the little houses, the little like fantasy houses and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that I'm looking forward to seeing some of those. They showed off a little bit of it, I guess, at Warhammer World. Now that you're mentioning it, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's see here. I've been using the War Painter brushes for the last year. Not as expensive as GW, but they're pretty good. Or Army Painter, yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people that like Army Painter brushes, partially because the shaft, the part you hold on to is like thicker and a little bit easier to grip. So I know people do like those. I think my local store sells those along with the sprays. What's happened to Blue Table Painting? Are they still going? From what I understand, yeah. I just saw some video or some pictures on YouTube just recently, and it seemed to be going. He's got new painters and things going like that. I think they're still in Utah, but I don't know that for sure. I don't think they're in the same city. They're not in the same studio they used to be. They used to have like this big fancy studio, and I think they did sell that. So, yeah. But I did just watch a video because I'm 98% sure that Sean is going to be at Valhalla, which I'm going to in October. He's like basically bringing the tables and stuff. So yeah. But Miranda from Wargamer Girl, she's kind of running things there. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've never been to Utah, so that'll be cool. But I'm looking forward to Valhalla quite a bit. Hello from Japan, enjoying the channel. Nice to see a live stream. Well, thanks. Yeah, I enjoy doing these. Frankly, okay. One of the reasons I like doing these is because I can just kind of ramble on, which I'm always glad to do, but I also get lots of questions and things over here in the chat, and that's really kind of nice that way. Another reason I like it is because when it's done, I don't have to edit it. You know what I mean? Like when I sit in the studio and I shoot something, that's part one of a 5-part, thing that I had. Then I go home and then I have to, capture all the stuff and put it on the computer, and then I have to edit and do this and do that and all that jazz. With these, I got 2 hours of content for me talking, and then I'm done, and then people can watch it later on. People can listen to it while they're painting, and that's great. So I really do enjoy doing these live shows, and I enjoy that you guys are showing up to check it out. Let's see here. Good to hear I'm not the only one that uses YouTube for learning how to do household tasks. Oh yeah, no, we were driving for work. We were driving to go do a video shoot, and my boss's truck got a flat, so it was a new truck, and he did not know how to get the tire out from underneath the underside of the truck, and so he went to the user's manual that was in the glove compartment, and I went to YouTube, and then we figured it out a lot faster by going onto YouTube. Let's see here. My cat is always knocking models off of my shelf. Yeah, I don't. Diesel and the other one, Carlson, neither of them get to go in the basement. Neither of them get to go into the nerd bunker because I don't want them doing exactly that. Plus, also, there's enough cat hair on me at any given time. I don't want to introduce even more down into the basement and have it get stuck to my models and stuff like that. So yeah. My favorite brushes are Broken Toad. I just picked up their Mark II brushes, and they're even better than the first. I've heard the name of the company, and I know I've seen some stuff, but I've never tried any of their brushes. I would like to I should look at their website eventually, and kind of see how some of that stuff goes. I should try to bring out some more models. How about that? I'm going to get these goat people a little bit out of the way. Scooch over, goat people. Let's see, what else have we got? Oh, here we go. This is... He looks very small there and sad. This is Lord Drippy. So this is the Lord of Plagues model, which is, I think, one of the better models that GW has kind of ever done. I just really like the model. As a figure, as a rule set in the game, he's not awesome. He's not a great like hero particularly, but he's kind of cool. And I have a tendency to bring him into different games just because I think he's such a great model. He's got that fun stuff, like his insides are leaking out over the top of his axe handle there. That's a lot of fun. He also has got a loincloth covering his butt, which is good. Also a little bit of chainmail. Yeah, just there's so much detail on this. Like this guy came out before the Putrid Blight Kings, but you can tell he's of the same kind of artistic style. I really like the Rotbringer kind of aesthetic to the Nurgle stuff. I mean, like his axe is all pockmarked and like missing bits, and it's like rusted and whatnot. I've made it more of a green kind of thing going on there. I really like the bony spiky bits on his just growing out of his shoulder pad for no reason. The first one of these I ever made, I made one with when I still played 40k, and I had a Chaos Space Marine army. I thought this model was so awesome. I bought one, and I basically gave him 2 shoulder pads. I had him this shoulder pad, and then on the other arm I gave him an actual like normal Plague Marine shoulder pad, and then I gave him a backpack, like a normal like Chaos Space Marine backpack, and I put a pistol on his hip, and then right in his chest I just had a like a bayonet, just like a combat knife, like a Space Marine combat knife, just like stuck into his chest, and he was just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. But otherwise he looked pretty much the same. He was using like, I made this like a demon weapon or whatever for his axe and stuff like that, and he was just a cool figure. And I used him in a lot of battles, and he was known as Old Drippy. And this is Lord Drippy because it's for fantasy, so he's a lord and whatnot. But yeah, Drippy's one of my favorite models. He's just such a great looking figure. It's just a cool sculpt. If you've been paying attention, you've probably seen tons of people convert him to have like instead of an axe, it's a machine gun or a chain gun or whatever, a heavy bolter. There's tons of people out there who've converted this model because it's just such a cool model. I have another one in the basement that's unbuilt. I'm not sure what to do with him yet, but I do want to use him for something at some point. So yeah, this is one of my favorite models. Like I said, he's not super effective in the game. He's not a great like general. I do have like one of the better generals for the Chaos arm for the Nurgle type army is called the Lord of Decay on Demonic Mount. And I have one. He's metal, but he's just, I haven't built him yet. And but he's like that model, which is a bit of an older model. Lord of Decay on Demonic Mount is like the first kind of like Rotbringer of this style Nurgle. The kind of bloated and the little pimples and bumps all over, and like parts where the skin is missing and all that stuff. And he kind of spawned, for lack of a better term, the Blight Kings and this guy and all those different types of things. Oops, and then I dropped him. But you should always spray coat your models, kids. But yeah, so he's pretty cool. Another guy who's also really cool, if I can find him, here he is this dude. This is Gutrot Spume, which is a great name. Gutrot Spume has got a lot of different things going on over here. He's got a big axe, kind of like Lord Drippy. He's got the Nurgle sort of stuff going on there. He's got teeth that are growing out of his stomach, which is never good. Plus, he's also got lots of tentacles. Like, if you look inside there, you can basically see he's got like an octopus mouth coming out of there, which is really hard to paint, frankly. But, yeah, so he's kind of an interesting character. He's still got the armor. He's also got loincloth covering his gross butt, which is, we're all thankful for. He's got sort of a bony carapace thing going on up here, too, which is interesting. This is a really super cool model. I can't figure out how to turn him. There we go. He's a super cool model, and I really liked painting him, and I don't know. I did a lot of airbrush, honestly, to make it. You can't tell so much here, but the tentacles all kind of fade from green to bright blue as they go out there, and that was a lot of airbrush work that I did to make that happen. But yeah, he's a super cool model. He is, again, not a great general. Like, his command ability sort of sucks, frankly. It's called something like Towering Arrogance, and basically, like, you use Towering Arrogance, and then if you don't do at least 7 wounds worth of damage in a turn, you take damage yourself. But if you do 7 wounds, because 7 is the sacred number for Nurgle, if you do at least 7 wounds or more, then you get, I think, healed completely, maybe, or something like that. It's just not, it's not a great thing. But if you just have him as a regular hero in your army and not the general, he is a close combat monster. He is pretty tough. So I do like to use him in those situations. He's a cool figure that way. But yeah, Gutrot Spume is, and he's on a much bigger base. He's like on maybe a 40. That's not a 32. Like, this is a 25 that Drippy's on. So he's on at least, I think, a 40 millimeter base. These guys, I think, are on 32s. Yeah, I think the Blight Kings are on 32s. And obviously I put a skull down there because that's what I do. And then he's got some other little stuff that he's standing on, and there's a lot of kitty litter chunks and things like that. So yeah. But yeah, it's kind of cool. Yeah, Drippy can be a hero in Silver Tower. I read about that. That's kind of cool. Do you think the new Broodlord is expensive? I guess I didn't see the price on him, so I don't know. Are you excited for the Specialist Games reboot from GW? I'm hoping for Mordheim because the old models are silly prices now. Frankly, I don't need Mordheim to be rebooted because I have Frostgrave, which I think I like Frostgrave actually a bit better than Mordheim. I have more than a bit better. I really do like Frostgrave a lot. Blood Bowl, I don't know, because I'm kind of interested in getting into Guild Ball, so I don't know if I need to go both directions. Necromunda, on the other hand, I would definitely like to see a Necromunda reboot, because that was a really cool game, and I would like to kind of get it. Just the models and the different gangs and stuff like that were really super cool, so I'd like to see some of that jazz. Yeah. After seeing your Goat People, I'm excited to get mine. Goat People are super cool. They're a lot of fun to paint. They have a lot of character. I like them a lot. Pumpkinhead says Glotkin is a fantastic model too. Glotkin is downstairs in the basement right now. He's in the box, but I've got him. My plan is this right now. So I'm showing you predominantly, there's more models in here, which we'll maybe still be able to get to. There's only about 10 minutes left on the broadcast, and then I eventually have to go to lunch. But Glotkin he's going to be added to this group. My plan is this. I've got these many guys done for probably 30-ish, 40-ish models done for Chaos right now. And I have plans on adding more stuff in the future. I want to get my Death Army to about the same level, 30 to 40 models. Well, probably actually quite a bit more, because 30 models is just the skeletons. I've got some hero guys that are built but not primed and painted yet. So I want to get those two forces to both kind of like starter kind of areas, about that many people. And then I've got some other stuff to do. I want to do some Frostgrave. I want to do a couple other pieces here and there, some post-apocalyptic stuff. And then I want to go back and start finishing up some more Chaos stuff like Glotkin and some Skaven stuff. And I want to finish up more Death stuff, like I've got a Terrorgeist that I bought on eBay that is in parts. It's a mess. So he's going to take a lot of work to put back together on a round base properly, and then paint and go through all that stuff. So, I've got plans and things, and I've got stuff. Yeah, I'm getting to the point where, at least for now, these guys are going to kind of, I don't want to say they're going to go on the back burner, because I'm still going to be playing with them because they're finished. But I'll be doing more work on Death stuff till I get two forces that are like pretty sort of equally, and then I'll be able to teach people how to play Age of Sigmar, like my wife or like whomever, and that kind of stuff. So yeah. Let's see here. Plague Lord is very convertible. Yes, he is. Festus, the Bleach Lord. I've got a sadly fine cast version of him, but yeah, he's going to be eventually added to the ranks as well. He's a cool looking guy as well. What are my thoughts on the current state of 40K? What are you hoping for the future? It's a good question. I don't know. I mean, the current state of 40K made it so I don't play 40K anymore, frankly. And then there's a lot of people out there who are like, oh, well, they're just going to turn 40K, or they're just going to turn 40K into Age of Sigmar, and they're going to make it like, and I don't think they're going to do that. I honestly think that Age of Sigmar is designed to bring in newer gamers, newer players, and then if you decide, I want to go on to something that's next level, I want to go on something with much more deep rules and this and that and the other thing, then they'll be like, oh, if you're interested in something like that, you should head over to 40K. The upside to them is that you pretty much can't bring your models across. You know what I mean? Unless you're playing Chaos Demons, where your models would work in either 40k or in Age of Sigmar. Anything else, like, I can't really bring these dudes over too much. Well, actually, these guys could work for Chaos Demons, kind of, I think. But if you're playing elves or something like that, or dwarves or whatever, those guys don't transfer very well over to 40k, so now you got to buy new guys, which is maybe part of their business plan. That's fine. Let's see here. What model is that? The tentacle guy? This is Gutrot Spume. Twisted Bishop. Gutrot Spume. He's crazy looking. I just finished painting Shadow Sun during this. Painting white is such a pain at times. Yeah, white is a hard color. Yellow is a hard color. When I do white, I like to usually base coat in like a super pale cream, and then highlight in white. Maybe throw down a super light gray wash. I have this wash from Vallejo or Reaper, I forget who, that's called Pale Gray, and I like to use that and then go back and do a little bit more dry brushing and highlighting and stuff like that to kind of cover it up again a little bit. But yeah, white's a real pain. It's difficult to do. Let's see here. That model is cool, like an octopus. Yeah, he is very octopusy. That's one of the things too, is that he has an attack basically called something like Clutching Pseudopods, and basically you can declare when he's in hand-to-hand with somebody, you can say, okay, well, I'm going to target this guy's weapon, and then you can roll a die, and the both of you, I think, roll off, and if the guy who's being attacked rolls higher, well, then nothing happens. But if Gutrot Spume rolls higher than the person who's being attacked, he basically uses his tentacles to, like, lock up the other guy's melee weapon for the entire turn. So getting him into combat, moving him up against somebody, and taking away their ability to use whichever weapon you want is really as long as it's a melee weapon, not a range weapon, is really sort of nice, because that can really help you, because now the guy can't attack. Like, if he's got multiple weapons, it's a different story. But if he's only got one main weapon and you tie that weapon up for the turn, that really helps. So he's a cool model that way. Like I said, never painted a very big model. I think I can. Yeah, the big models. That's the thing. I got to say, Glotkin is scaring me a little bit because he's so big and he's so detailed and there's so much going on. I'm in the process of painting a Mutilith Vortex Beast, which is hard to say, and he's a Chaos guy. He is maybe half done, and I didn't bring him upstairs because he's not as done as I would like. But he's a good-sized figure, too. Not nearly as big as Glotkin, but yeah, that's a lot of work, and I've never really painted that stuff that big either. So it's a learning process for me. Cliff says he's got to go move a friend. Well, I have good luck. You're a good person helping a friend move. That's a lot of work. Let's see here. I got the Glotkin, Festus, Festergut. Just start collecting Nurgle, and then some Nurgle Knight dudes and then pox-ridden rats. That's your plan. That's a good plan. I like it. Last I heard, rumor-wise, is 40k is going to go formations only. That put me off, to be honest. Yeah, I hadn't heard that. That would put me off as well, though, frankly. But, I mean, a lot of people do use the formation stuff, and I know that's a pretty popular plan at this point. I don't know if they would make it a necessity, but maybe. Do you think changing the setting of Warhammer Fantasy was the right move, or could they have gotten away with keeping the setting and changing the game system? That's a good question, because a lot of people have brought it up. When I did the video about why I think Age of Sigmar is a good thing, I was astounded by the amount of people that were super unhappy about the lore changing. I guess I don't focus personally on lore as much as other people do. I like the look of stuff. I mean, lore is interesting, and but it's more background of the figures. Like, the overall what's going on in the world doesn't affect me as much, or does not affect my enjoyment of the game as much. But obviously there's a lot of people that did not dig that. I don't know if they could have just decided to keep it the way it was. It wouldn't have been able to. They would have not been able to bring in probably the Stormcast Eternals very easily. I guess they could have done almost like a Second Coming sort of thing and kept the old world, but brought Sigmar back, and then he could have brought back, the Stormcast Eternals with them, or something like that. I mean, a lot of people complain about 40k, about how the story hasn't moved forward in 20 years, So then they did it with Fantasy moving to Age of Sigmar, and then people complained. So yeah, I mean, if they did the same type of deal and made a big change to the story in 40K, I think you'd get some people who'd be like, yeah, whatever, and a lot of people who would like lose their minds. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if there's a way to get around it. A lot of what happened with the transfer from Fantasy to Age of Sigmar was basically poorly done PR on Games Workshop's point. There's just no two ways about it. It was just not good PR on their part. Yeah. So yeah, I hopefully they're getting a little bit more into trying to make the PR work a little bit better, and we'll see. But yeah, moving that story, I think it needed to happen at some point, but I don't know. Let's see here. I just painted the belly of my Ragnarok spider. Used Rakarth flesh, Agrax Earthshade, Rakarth Pallid Witch flesh. Turned out really nice for the dirty white gray. Yeah, like layering like a medium color and then throwing a wash over it, and then going back and doing some medium but not doing it everywhere, and then throwing a lighter color. You know, that kind of layering is really, it's easy. It's not, you know, wet blending, which I know is scary to a lot of people, including myself to some degree. I'm not real great at it yet, but it's an easier way to layer things sometimes and to get a good kind of a gradual effect. Rhino of Pleasure says he's got a Glotkin sitting in a box as well. He's a bit scared of it. Same here. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Is there anything like Song of Blades and Heroes for sci-fi? Song of Blades and Heroes is a fun game, but looks a bit bizarre if you are playing with 40k orcs. That's a good point. They made a game called Flying Lead, which is modern to near future. Carlson. It's modern to near future, and he doesn't really have anything that's really, really sci-fi yet. Andre has been talking for about quite a while about making like power armor rules, but it just hasn't happened yet. So, yeah. Daniel Antil says my wife would like to see your cat. Yeah, they're not coming over by me particularly. They're just walking at, you know, in other rooms and meowing a lot. I'll have to put some pictures up on the thing here at some point. Not today. I don't know how to do it, but maybe for next time when they start making noise, I'll just be like, oh, and that one's this one, and that one that's making that noise is this one, so you can kind of see. But yeah, neither of them is within arm's reach currently. Mutants and Deathray Guns is the same developer. Yep. Mutants and Deathray Guns is post-apocalyptic. So orcs would maybe sort of work for that. It's a cool game. I like that one too. For whatever reason, I seem to like Song of Blades and Heroes a little bit better. But yeah, Mutants and Deathray Guns. He's got a whole line in that. You know, there's Song of Blades and Heroes, Song of Drums and Shakos, which is like Napoleonics. He's got Mutants and Deathray Guns. Flying Lead is a cool one. Flying Lead is also a little bit more advanced. Speaking of advanced, he did just recently release Advanced Song of Blades and Heroes, which is well, pretty much what it says on the tin. It's Song of Blades and Heroes, but with an advanced set of rules, so it has more detail to it and things like that, and so that's really cool too. Nuclear Renaissance is a great one for me, and it's free. I've never heard of Nuclear Renaissance. I'll have to look that one up. I've got a Vermin Lord sitting as well. Oh yeah, Vermin Lords are also big, scary-looking creatures. I have not bought anything Skaven related that big yet, but I do have a Plague Claw Catapult, which is put together. I think I showed it off in its pre-primed state a couple, like last time I got together with you guys here. But yeah, so that model is bigger, but it's not as scary as something like a Glotkin or a Vermin Lord. Chaos Disciple 722 says, large models are fun to do. They take a lot more time, but they look awesome all painted up with your army. Oh yeah, definitely. The guy I was talking about before that I've been playing with on and off lately, he's the guy who commissioned Sam to paint that Archaon. So I know I'm going to be going up against that Archaon very soon in a game. I will take pictures when I do that, and you'll be able to see it. But, I don't know how I'm going to... It's going to be an interesting game. It's going to be a lot of fun to go up against something that big and see what I can do. So, yeah. Let's see here. Read a couple of novels that gave... I haven't read any of the novels for Age of Sigmar. I used to read the 40k novels, but I haven't read any of the Age of Sigmar ones. Let's see here. For someone wanting to try skirmish games instead of 40k, I really love the lore and models of Wreck Age. Are the rules smooth? I've played the demo. I played a demo of Wreck Age at Adepticon, and I'm a big fan of post-apocalyptic stuff in general. The rules are cool. I want to play them a little bit more before I say that they're smooth, but I do like them. Hey, hun, can you grab Carlson? People want to see him on camera.
Was he making a lot of noise?
He's been making a lot of noise, yeah. Or Diesel, either one. I know Carlson doesn't like to be picked up, but Diesel does. So yeah, it's a cool game system. I like the lore of it behind it a lot, which I just said before. I wasn't usually big into the lore, but I'm big into post-apocalyptic stuff, so that was cool. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. I need to play a little bit more before I say it's smooth. One of the problems, and I don't want to say it's a problem, but one of the things that makes it a little difficult reading the rules for Wreck Age is that it's also a role-playing game if you want to play it that way. So there are times when you're like, I'm having a hard time figuring out if this is a rule that pertains to role-playing or if this is a rule that pertains to the other one. I think both the cats are giving her the slip currently. So yeah, but I do like Wreck Age. I did enjoy playing it. Let's see here. Campaign books. What models do you test schemes on? Yeah, that's always a good question too. Sometimes I use one, and it depends. Let me see if I can get. So there's Carlson. He does not generally like being picked up.
Nope, he's out.
He's not a snuggler unless you're sitting down. And Diesel I just saw walk by before. He's a big fuzzy brown one. So, yeah, what was I talking about? Oh, test models. Like for skeletons and stuff like that, I just use skeletons. I find skeletons online someplace. If I find, if I'm doing, Space Marines, then generally, if I was going to be doing a Space Marine army, I would go online and try to find cheap Space Marines that have already been painted and look crappy or whatever, and then I just paint over the top of it and test out my scheme. Obviously, if you're doing Necrons, it's hard to kind of test them without actually doing it on Necrons. But sometimes you can just do really small tests where you do 2 or 3 of them and kind of go, well, let's see how this works out, and then maybe you get something and maybe you don't. Yeah. Oh, there's Diesel. All right, she finally got him. He's the noisier one generally. Let's scooch this way. There's Diesel. He's half Maine Coon. He weighs 17 pounds, so he's a big moose, and he's noisy. So yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go because it's time for lunch, and I appreciate that everybody came in, even though I got started a little late because I was having some technical difficulty. So yeah, there'll be another video, on Friday, and I'll be doing this show again in 2 weeks. It's the Every Other Sunday show. It's kind of the subtitle for this show. So I appreciate your questions. I appreciate everybody coming along. I appreciate you taking a look at. Hang on, let me put this shot. I appreciate you coming to take a look at some of my chaos stuff, and I'll show you cool stuff again next week. And that's pretty much it. I hope everybody has a good day, and we'll see you later.